Hey, so today we are back with the SEQTRAK, but not really about the hardware. Today we are discussing the software, and really this has been something that really opens up the device. Like, there's a lot in there to showcase how this is working under the hood, especially with those synth engines, how all the different bits interact with each other, because it just shows that this is a lot more than what it is. And it does offer a lot more opportunity to get into that really niche sound design and getting the most out of the device. So instead of talking about it, let's get straight into it. Alright, so if you haven't yet, go to the right area to download the software. So this is for Mac, PC, iOS and Android. So get the right version that you're looking for. Get it installed, and when you plug in your SEQTRAK, you might notice this little area down here is bright orange with upgrade. So if you haven't done it already, definitely upgrade your SEQTRAK to 1.2. It's going to add a whole lot of nice features to your device, and you're going to get a lot more out of it. But if you don't see that connecting, or it's not connecting properly, just come into here. Either if you're doing it through Bluetooth or USB. Currently I'm doing USB. Sometimes I just unplug it and plug it back in, and that gets it cranking. But when you see this screen, everything should be connected up. And really, this video is just showing how much this software opens up the device. So if you're like me, I'm just working in front of the computer with the SEQTRAK in front of me. So you probably won't see it, but I do have it plugged in down here. But we do have a bunch of stuff, and I'm just going to go through each one of these menus. I've already done one fully for the Visualiser because I think there is something that is a little bit special about this software. So if you're looking for that, there's a video that I've already done. But let's just go through everything else. So I'm just going to turn off my face for a second, because if you're just flat out wanting some extra information, come to this panel here. So it's got all the links to the user guides and that will send you out into the internet to go download those files. So if you go back, you got parameter lists. So this one here will show you when you're going into certain menus. So say you're wanting to edit a drum and you use the triple dot underneath the 4 panels, that's what's going to be showing for you. So you can use those to do it, but that does it for every single synth. So you can see how you can use it to edit each of those screens. So DX7, each one of these has got a bunch of different options. So it's like, it becomes this companion app where you can learn how to use the device to get the most out of it and really walk through. But I think they've done another really special thing, is this dynamics tutorial. So this was the first thing I wanted to really show off. And it looks like it's just a screen that's got a bunch of the variables, but if I decide to push a part of the Yamaha synth, so if we go like that, so I just press one of the rotary encodes, it gives us all this extra information that we can use to learn about the device. And it really depends whatever you press. So it's going to jump to those points here. As you can see, I'm just pressing a whole bunch of buttons, and it's giving all that contextual information. So if you're not really sure, like usually if I haven't touched this for a while, I forget how to do the bring up the keyboard, which you hold key and press. No, you got Alt and then key, and you get into this keyboard mode here. They did add a nice feature where you have these octave buttons now, so it's really easy to navigate the whole spectrum of the sound. So really low pitches to high pitches, super handy to add. So really diving into this while you're playing, especially early on, it's going to tell you all those little tricks that's going to help you get the most out of that machine. So the next major area I really want to touch base on is that GUI editor, because this really expands out what the SEQTRAK can do. Because if you've got it down in front of you and you've got your tablet or a laptop, or how I've got it set up with the PC in front of me, it really just expands out and visually shows what is happening inside the box. Like, I do enjoy a machine where everything that has accessible to is all controlled. How the SEQTRAK is this sort of like minimalist hardware physical thing. There's no LED screens or anything, but sometimes when you're just tweaking stuff and wanting to understand what's happening under the hood, this allows us to see what is going on and gives us a lot of visual information. So I just wanted to touch base a little bit of what's going on in each of these panels. But by the way, when you start mucking around with the synths, you'll see it'll jump to the different menus because it's reacting to how we interact with the machines. So to start with, this is all our patterns, so they all synchronize, so we can adjust that on the fly. And then next in line we have the volume, we have our send, so it's just got currently a reverb and delay. So if I come into here, as you can see, we got that drop down of all the different types of effects that we can apply and the actual name, so we can just click around, find the one that we want and add that. Same thing, we have controls here. If we go back into the overview, this last one is usually say for the repeater, or there is a vinyl stop as well, so you just got those two. But you can apply a few other different types that work well as a repeater. So those are like the more live effects, and then you have a compressor, so you can sort of adjust the track to like make sure there's no clipping or any of that sort of stuff, as well as an EQ, so you can come in here and clean all that up. But as you saw, as I was clicking around, you can just go directly to the menu. You don't have to be in this overview and click around. And next we are dealing with the drums. So these are all the drum based samplers, and each one of these has some really interesting types, but same thing, you can come down the side here, adjust what you have, and this is where you can get into those individual points. So I'm just using the rotary encoders to scroll around, but you can do that. You can come up here, you can adjust the sound, so you can pick from what you want. Instead of scrubbing through that sound knob, you can actually pick them out here. You can also favorite them so they're not lost in the wake of everything. And then you can start fine tweaking it. So there's a few different elements here. So as you can see, we've got pitch, volume, pan, some choke. We can adjust the attack and decay of each of the samples, because really these are like one-shot samplers. You can give a little bit of effect on the end, but you can get a little bit more depth with it. So you can balance the EQ of each of the samples. You can either send it to send one or send two, those two master effects that we have access to, and then we can apply an LFO to our sound and then route it around into a few different places. So there's a lot to offer when you have this menu open up, because it just breaks everything down visually so you can see what's going on. And like with the SEQTRAK, you do have 7 different sample clips for that drum track, so don't feel like you can't put wacky things on there. Like, it doesn't have to be a snare, but it just allows you to visually see what's going on here. And just so you know, like, you can change the category through that same menu. So there's a lot of repeating in here. So once you start understanding how the synths and the samplers and all the settings work, you'll be able to apply it across the part. But let's move on to the synthesizers, because the first two are interesting. The DX7 is special on its own. Like, it's a 4-pole FM synthesizer, and next we have the sampler by itself. So we can do some tricky stuff there. So I'm just going to start with Synth 1, because Synth 1 and 2 are pretty much the same. But if you ever dealt with like a Roland Sound Canvas or the Yamaha equivalent, these were machines that would do romplers, or they would play samples but give a bunch of controls to really change up the sound. So if I just jump up to sound, this is like the rotary encoder. We can scroll through, but as you can see, we can split it up into a whole bunch of different things. And I've just got my Yamaha SEQTRAK set up with keyboard mode. So I can sample the sound, say maybe. Got that old style game sound that I really enjoy with these types of samples, but there is quite a lot in here, so you don't have to really feel like you need to add more to this, but you might have some ways that you want to control it. So we'll just head back. So as you can see, we can change it from mono to poly, so it means we can have polyphony on that channel. Chord, if you want to play with chords here, so you can do chord stacks in here. We have our pan, our volume, so we can give it an attack and a decay on the sample itself. We can filter the frequency, so if we want a low pass or a high pass. Right now I just want that off, and we can apply an effect here. So as you can see, we've still got quite a few to pick from. But if we want to get more into that sound design itself, you can come in here, and as you can see, we have EQ send, so how we can set up that EQ on the master. We can do that. We can send it to the reverb and delay that we had set up. The LFO, we can apply it around to a bunch of different areas of this synthesizer. So we can adjust things here. Portamento, so this is that slide. So if I just go back and set that to mono, go back in here. As you can hear it sliding around. You probably don't want it that extreme, but you can get the idea of, you can adjust how we sort of mess with that sample. Also, if you want an arpeggiator, we can do something like that. We can say we make it go up, and then the notes I play, and then we can adjust the octave. So after tweaking everything and you really enjoy that sound, you can come in here and just give it a name. So we'll just click here. We go yes, and then that's saved into our sounds as well, and given it a bit of a favorite. So Synth 1 and 2, they're really interesting because they're just samplers, but they offer a lot more control on how we can apply effects, do some routing, and really take a sound into something more that we can control into our song. But you're probably thinking, how do I put my own sounds in there? So we need to go back to home and then go into this little section here, because this is how we add sound. So as you saw, we had those trumpets, and there's my little one here. And if we wanted to bring our own sample into here, we can just click this import. It's going to work by WAVs, so you just import them into here, and then you can apply them and give them a good name and a good tag, and then you can use that in all your songs. So you're not just limited to the stuff you make, you can bring in other people's projects and other people's work. So you're not limited, because you can bring in other people's stuff as well. So it's just going to open so much sonic palette of your SEQTRAK. But what I think really works well with the SEQTRAK itself is, if you're doing this type of work, having all the samples on there and you constantly scrolling that sound knob to like get to the sounds you want, it's really important to favorite them on here, but also limit the amount of sounds out on the SEQTRAK, or the sounds that would really work for you, because as you can see, there's quite a lot to scroll through here, and you're doing that on a device and you can't see the name. So if you set up a SEQTRAK the way you really enjoy music, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So before I move on to another synthesizer, I just wanted to show how you can edit the actual patterns on this thing, because as we were saying, we can use that rotary encoder to scrub around, so we can do the same thing for our synths. So if you click the sound, or pretty much any of these drop down areas, we can use this to get to pattern, and this is where we can adjust it. So I'm just going to select the first one, because I just recorded some stuff by playing, pressing the record button, putting some notes in, and you can use that to get a really good idea. But if you really want to fine tweak it, you can come in here and edit the parameters. So as you can see, I can scroll up and down, I can go between the different bars. I've only got one bar set up here, but each of these notes I can just move them to where I want them. I can adjust the length. So if you don't like one, you can just drag this scrolly thing and just drag it all the way back, and that's going to remove them. So it just gives you a really nice way to fine tune those patterns. And then if you come back out, we just hit that close button, and that pattern's ready to go. And we can do that for each one. We don't have to go in and live play these things or use the step sequencers. As much as I do enjoy using the step sequencer, where you can hold record and then do like a sort of live tweaking of the knob, or you hold the individual step and then you can fine adjust a note length and that sort of stuff. So that's how you can get the most out of your pattern. So now we're on to my favorite synthesizer, which is the DX, which is a 4-pole FM synthesizer. So if you haven't dealt with FM before, it stands for frequency modulation. And if you think of a sine wave that goes and just continues on, what we're doing is squashing and stretching that carrier wave using modulator waves. So those come in the background, and then we can say apply a higher sine wave and I'll squash those together. So that's how we get a really buzzy, very characteristic FM sound. So if you don't want to go in here and start adjusting, like, you can use that scroll knob to like pick a bunch of different sounds to start working with, and there's no drama with that. Like, the original DX7 was a preset machine, but there were some special people that could get under the hood and really get the most out of it. So similar to the Synth 1 and 2, like, we have a polyphony option, we have a chord option, we have pan volume, we got a filter, which is very nice for FM because it can get very bright and harsh, so we can use that to bring back some of the levels. So we can do something like that. We can adjust the attack and decay of the FM. So think of this more like those old Yamaha toy FM keyboards that they used to have. We can apply different effects, but let's go have a look at the sound design, because this works very differently to Synth 1 and 2. So as you can see, we have our 4 poles, and we have a bunch of options in here how they work. So if we just jump and start with the algorithm, the squares are the carrier waveforms, so they're the ones that you hear, and then the circles are the modulator waveform. So this doesn't actually make sound, 1 actually makes a sound, but 2 is modulated by 3 by 4. So just when you start out with FM, it's really just picking a sound. So does that sound interesting? Does that sound interesting? So you go through and test out each one, but once you start getting more into it, like these ones, you can have like 2 channels of audio having 2 different elements buzzing around. You have 1 modulator wave driving 3 different voices. Like, you got a lot that you can pull out of this machine. So enough about the algorithms, let's have a look at what an operator does, and we'll start with the first one because that's the one that's actually sending sound out for us. So as you can see, there's a lot that's going on for our sound, and really they're just individual sine waves with an envelope and a way to control how it comes through. So one thing to note is, big thing on ratios, that's a lot about FM, but what you can do is just start mucking around, keep it in ratio, because like ratios of like 3 and 5, 5 and 7, like those are going to come out with some nice tones. But because you have the Yamaha right in front of you, you can sample and then you can scroll around to test out a sound before committing to it. So you have like a detune option for each of the synths. If you want to change it from ratio and into fixed, so you're starting to get into that scary smart territory, you can do it that way as well. So levels is how much that's going to be applied. So because this is the first operator, or the one that's making sound, that's going to control the volume. The other ones are going to be how much it controls the frequency modulation. Velocity sensitivity, so the little keypad on here, it's pretty static, but you can program in velocity sensitivity in your patterns. But this is controlled by an envelope, so you can drag this around to how that's going to come out and around the sound. So you have a lot of control with how modulars and carriers get affected by multiplying by each other. So there's a lot that can happen here. And then you can have some feedback as well, so that's going to change the character of the sound. And yeah, so you can spend a lot of time in this section, and just think of it, it's 4 operators that you're working at once. So there's a lot of knowledge in this space, and it's really nice to be able to visually see how everything's laid out. But there are a few other things. So pitch EG, so this is the sound as it goes through the time, so you can have a little bit more control over all the OP. So if you want to do some pitch slides, or like make the start get a little bit of a pitch bump there, you can do that. You can apply LFOs, so each one of these you can sort of adjust where they're getting routed to and how they're being applied to the operators. So then you got like the basics, like a speed control, how much is applied, and what sort of waveform that you want to apply on top. So yeah, it's just adding so many layers of sound design opportunity right there. So next we have portamento. So like I said before, it will let the note slurp into the next route, and then we have an arpeggio that we can turn on as well. So there is a lot with the DX7, and I do like the sound of what the Yamaha SEQTRAK has. Like when I got it, it was really nice to get that sort of old school Yamaha keyboard sound. So if you like what you made, you can come up here and save the name, and definitely save it, because yeah, you create like this library of your own custom sounds, and you really get the most out of this machine. So last on our list is the sampler, and like our drum samples we had before, this is a lot more simpler, but we do have access to 7 samples that we can record in our own samples. There's a little mark on the C track, but you can load in your own one. So if you think about how the drum synths work in sound design for the whole lot, it's quite simple, because a lot of it's handled inside each individual sound itself. So we got our patterns, we got some sound design where we can apply a filter over the whole lot, reverb and delay sends, and the effects. But when we click on one of these buttons here, that's when we can start seeing our samples. So if I go into sound, we can pick from a variety of different sounds. So risers are really handy, all the sound effects, but think of them more like one shot. So you can adjust the start and the end of the sound. So if there's like a little bit of silence at the start or at the end, we can loop them, which is a new feature. So we can set up a loop point as well, so it just keeps re-triggering. and you can have it running in the background, so some like old tracker goodness or some like old romplers of yesteryear, you can do that sort of stuff. We have access to a pitch, we have it trigger or is it a gate, so when you let go your finger it'll stop playing. We can do a little bit more sound design stuff in here with a EQ and LFO, but we can also do some stuff with attack and decay. So if you like say there's a point where it's a little bit clicky at the start, you can do that and then apply a little bit of the attack to adjust it as well. So we have the decay, we have a pitch envelope too, so if you want to do like a kick drum, you can have the pitch start up really high and bring it down, so you can really mangle each of the sound effects themselves. And when you're happy with that, you can click the button up here, and that's how you can save your own sample as well. So really that is the sampler itself. You do have 7 of them, so you can apply a variety of different sounds, and it's just going to make the place a little bit easier. I did forget to mention there is an effect that you can apply here, so you can use that to adjust the sampler all over, so it adds a lot more contextual cool stuff to it. So with all that, it really isn't just like a one-shot machine, like you put a riser on it, you make it play riser and that's it. You have a lot of sculpting opportunities within each of those buttons, and definitely do save them out because it does add to the overall sound that you're applying. And yeah, you can get a lot out of that sampler by itself. So next on our list is the performance section. So this is all the ways the sound interacts with each other before we take it through to the master. So as you can see on this first screen, this is our mixer. So we can use like mute groups, we can solo things, we can adjust the volumes for each of the individual parts. So we can really sculpt how those sounds are playing nice. Maybe our kick drum's a little bit too loud, we can bring it back in the background, or like we can adjust everything so we have a really nice mix. Next on the list is the samplers, so we can adjust each individual sampler instead of having to come back in here, adjust the sound, so we can do it that way. We have our send, so like maybe we're making some 80s and we're sending a whole bunch to the reverb, and then we can have like that gated snare sound. Like all these settings are in those individual areas through the synths and the drums that we can adjust. It just brings them all into one nice place that we can work with. So next in line is the pattern. So this shows which patterns are playing, and if I start playing with some rotary encoders, it might jump around like that. But if I haven't said before, you can put this lock on, so no matter what you do on the SEQTRAK, it's not going to move it around. So I can come in here and then adjust all the patterns here. And as you can see, like 6 rows, and like we've got a variety of different areas that we can do. We can get a lot of different elements coming out here. And like if one of the tricks with the new update is if you go all mute, the 3 dots on the all would highlight, and then it makes it into you just got to click the rotary encoders, and it just makes it so much easier and quicker. You can visually see on the SEQTRAK like everything lights up green that you've muted, and then if you want to get out of it, you can just hit mute again and bring out those mutes, and then you can keep playing. So next is pad and key, and this is where we can actually play on the phone or on the screen, so we can use our mouse to click around. It's not as intuitive as the SEQTRAK itself, but it just gives us an option to play notes as well. So maybe if you've got a touchscreen, it'll be a lot nicer to play with. But you can set up record, you can do all the bits, you can jump into the individual synths to adjust things that way as well. And the last part for this section is song mode. So this is a really nice way to sort of allow us to have a break, or so we go through all the patterns, we make some really nice bar loops. So we've got 8 bar loops, got 4 bar loops. We have a nice way that we go through and play the sequences, so we make our nice little song with it. What we can do is take another step back and actually program all that into this song mode here. So if I just jump into here, as you can see, I can go through and adjust and say I want these patterns to play. I can say only play these channels here, close that, jump into the next stage, and then we can apply different things as well. So this is just a way that we can use song mode. So if, like, say we're on stage, we enjoy live playing, but there's something else that we need to look after, we can set the SEQTRAK up to play that song mode just by going projects and hitting the all, and then we play, and then that's going to play through all our song. So it just gives us a way that we can leave the SEQTRAK to do what it does. We have a default, but we can go on there and live play if we want. But if we got something that we really enjoy, we can just set that to run. And we're up to that last part, and this is all the project settings. So make sure you give your project a really good name. We can set the BPMs, the swing, the key that we're going to play in. We can set the scale that we're going to do. So this is really good to set at the start. If you don't feel confident like knowing different scales and keys, it's really nice to just sit there and explore. It's like, oh, luck of the draw, pick one, maybe a minor pentatonic if you feel special. And you can use that to really sculpt out the sounds, where you just explore the sounds instead of trying to figure out what note goes in what key. So it just opens a lot in this project. If you click this one, you can adjust like what has access to. So if there's a button up the top with scale, so if you press that one, you can see on the left that's what you have access to, but there is a bunch of different scales that you can choose from. You have the drum choke, so say if you want to, say with a hi-hat in like a physical drumming, so the hi-hat, if you hit and push the pedal down, it closes the hat, so you get that like tss. But if you leave it open, you get a longer hat sound, so you can set that up by doing that and doing that. But maybe you got different percussion elements that don't interact with each other, so you have the option to set that up here for the song, so your drums feel a little bit more like they are drums, so they're cutting each other out. And this button up here is where we had 3 tracks, but we can set it up so it has 6 tracks as well, so we can make a lot more music with that. And with all those parts, like as we've gone through and shown each of the individual parts, we can use that to really sculpt in our project and get the most out of it. We can click play up here, but it's just nice to hit play on the C track as well. And really that has opened up a whole bunch of the software. And like I said before, once you got that track, one of the first videos I done for the SEQTRAK was that Visualiser, because what I find really interesting is this is written in Unity, and it's really interesting because my day-to-day is dealing with stuff like this, and it's just really interesting to see synthesizers taking that same software approach that makes this work is making the SEQTRAK work as well. So it's just interesting to see how it's all coming together, and one of the reasons why I really enjoy talking about synthesizers. So one of the last areas I didn't show here was this FX playlist. So if you're trying to figure out what's in that rotary encoder when you're like picking effects out, you can come in here and see every single effect and how it all interacts with each other. So those control knobs, how each one of them adjusts for the different parts. So I want to do that. As you can see, it's pretty much an Excel spreadsheet. So I think it's more intuitive once you start learning those different effects and how they work. You might find that there's 2 or 3 that you really enjoy, so you just go straight to them to do the thing that you want. And you remember where those dots are on the SEQTRAK. It does become a lot more intuitive as you understand what's under the hood. And I think this video is really good to show like how everything is sort of laid out visually. There is a few settings stuff as well, so this is really just to deal with the app itself, so you can use that to adjust or do some stuff with the hardware. But really, that is everything for the software. So I hope that's given you a little bit of help, because personally I'm a bit of a stickler for putting software onto my machines, especially if it's trying to lock me in and do stuff. Like I work in IT, so I deal with a lot of different software. But what I find is this software paired with the SEQTRAK just opens so much more of that functionality. But when you unplug it and take it on its way, you're left with a really streamlined device, and you can get a lot out of this machine, especially just noodling around and trying different things. You can come up with some really interesting patterns. Then you plug it back in, take it to the software, and then you can save it all out and keep record of what you've been working on. But it creates a nice companion app as well that you can get the most out of the app itself with the SEQTRAK. So I definitely think it's worth it to get it installed if you haven't already. Definitely for that update, because it just adds nice bits of functionality to the SEQTRAK, just makes it work a nice little bit better. So if you did enjoy this one, definitely give it the thumbs up. It does help the algorithm to showcase what the SEQTRAK can do to people that are probably looking for it. And if you do have any comments or queries as well, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I do try and go down there and answer as much as I can, especially when like the SEQTRAK on the surface looks like a simple machine. It's really not under the hood. So there is a lot to have in that discussion as well. And I do have a few bits of SEQTRAK content on there as well, especially for that Visualiser. So if you're looking for that stuff, I look forward to seeing you next time.